Hello and welcome to the Live Reality Game Podcast. My name is Steven Stewart, and I'm back for more Surviving Reelfoot content, deep dives from the most recent season, the Decennium. And joining me today to talk all about this game, we have Blake. Blake, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Doing well. How has your post-Reelfoot experience been so far?
I would say it's been pretty good. I would say I'm still recovering from like the mosquito bites and my back still hurts a little bit because sleeping on that ground was not comfortable. But other than that, I'm recovering pretty well.
Well, it definitely can take time. Like in Reelfoot, yeah, honestly, just sleeping on the ground with nothing is just I think one of the hardest parts of the game, or maybe
Yeah.
the lack of sleep while you're laying on the ground is a better way to put it.
I would say, I was more cold, and I got the award for best wardrobe, but not really thinking. I didn't bring no pants. I brought pants, but I did bring pants, but they're in my suitcase. So I was wearing shorts. So not getting enough sleep also was another factor because being cold, I was constantly up and then had to wake up, at least start the fire again. Also scared that I was there's going to be snakes in the middle of the night because I'm scared of snakes, and I did not want to wake up with a snake by my feet or by my head. So
Did you eat the rattlesnake?
I did eat the rattlesnake. I had it both ways. I had it two different times when Frank made it on the campfire at Redemption, and I had it fried as well.
Which is better?
Honestly, I would say the fried version, deep fried version. So
It's hard to like something that's been deep fried. At least that's in my opinion.
yeah. So it was good. It tastes like chicken.
So knowing what you know now, if you could change your wardrobe choice going the game, what would you do differently?
I would wear. Well, originally my plan was to wear athletic leggings and sweatpants or joggers, but I didn't do that. Maybe I would have brought some sweatpants, obviously, but I also would have brought some better socks or a bigger sweatshirt, or maybe the jacket like Shauna had. But that jacket was warm. It did keep me warm a couple nights. But yeah.
Well, going back a bit to the pregame. So when did you get into Survivor?
So I've always liked the actual show and all that stuff, and when I was on Facebook one day, I think I came across Reelfoot, the Reelfoot page, and I believe they reached out to me by saying I should apply, and then eventually I applied, had the interview, and yeah, here I am now and doing a podcast with you, and yeah.
So had you played any live games before?
No, actually, this is my first year doing a live reality game. So I think I would say I'm pretty proud of myself actually doing something like this. Eventually I will do more.
And so, coming in the Reelfoot, did you have any expectations? Were you nervous about anything?
I was more nervous about, I would say more nervous about how the people were. I'm a very social person. I get along with people easily, but I'm not really good not good with people backstabbing or lying or not trustworthy people. I can deal with. Not trustworthy people I cannot. So I was always constantly thinking, are they gonna am I gonna be the first one out, or am I gonna be the second one out? But I don't know if anyone watched any of the tribals, but my facial expressions, I was pretty forward with my expressions. I was also calm, which I didn't want to show any emotion, but yeah.
So did you do anything to prepare before coming out the Reelfoot? Nothing at all.
No preparing.
Okay.
No.
So what were you, so going into the game, I guess, did you have any expectations that I guess what surprised you going in the Reelfoot then, kind of going in cold?
I thought like I should have prepared and all that stuff, or like maybe the puzzles. I did look up to see how much puzzles
Mm-hmm.
were, like just to buy them, and they were like expensive. So I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna waste my money on buying the puzzles. I already spent money for going to Reelfoot, so I'm just gonna wing it. I would say my like physical ability, I was
Mm-hmm.
gonna start working out, but then I kept pushing it back, and I was like, I'm just gonna go there. I'll lose weight or I'll work out there. But like my social game, I mean, I just did the same thing. I was like, you know what? I'm a social butterfly. I can easily probably make friends. I can easily get people to get along with me. So I will just do that. But I was telling myself to keep my calm and like do not get mad easily and don't get frustrated, because I did get heated a couple times because I have all these good ideas and plans, and it's like, no, we're not doing that, or no, we're gonna do this, and I'm like, you know what? I don't care. It's whatever. You guys do what you want to do, but yeah.
So, what did you come in with any strategies in mind, or ways you wanted to play, or things you wanted to do?
Um, at first, my strategy originally was if I found an idol, um, I was gonna play it the day of that tribal council if we went, and then find another idol. Like, so basically, find the idols, play it the day of the tribal, because obviously my alliance lied to me, so no one was safe in our tribe. Um, but also, I would, if I really wanted to, I was gonna tell everybody that, hey, I have this idol. If you vote for me to try to get me to use this idol, I'm going to use the idol. So you
Mm-hmm.
better try to find someone else, you know. But
We'll,
um,
we'll definitely talk more about those
yeah,
ally strategies later because you are put in some hard positions in this game.
mm-hmm, I was.
So, you arrive at the game. Do you recognize any other players who are arriving before the game begins?
Nope, I don't
Okay.
know any of them. Nope.
Okay, so this is a true fresh start. Did
Mm.
anyone make any impressions on you before the game began?
I would say people that like their eye caught, well, my eyes caught were Melissa. I'd say Melissa was one of them that I really wanted to work with.
Mm-hmm.
Sadly, I didn't get to work with her. Um, I would say Deb and me talked briefly once we were able to like actually like communicate.
Mm-hmm.
um I mean, she played an org and I played an org game, so she knew the people I played for in the game,
Mm-hmm.
so she kind of like talked about that. But other than that, no one really else. It just, or Hannah, actually Hannah was another one. I should say Hannah was.
And unfortunately, both Hannah and Melissa,
Mhm.
uh, yeah, both of them end up on a different tribe from to start with because you
Yes,
are put on the non-Kana tribe, the Pink tribe. Talk to me about your initial impressions of this group of people you're put with.
honestly, I would say I felt like we were like a calm, collected like group of friends, like not friends, group of people like that. There's not gonna be drama. There wasn't gonna be any problems, and I thought we were gonna be, kumbaya, I should say. Um, and I think it was just like over time when the challenges we kept losing, that it started to change.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed. I mean, I've always think 3 steps ahead. I'm always aware of what's going on. I'm always like paying attention. And people probably don't think that I don't know what I'm doing or what I'm paying attention, but I really am. So I noticed changes fast and easily, like fast, and I based my strategies off of that.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say we were a good tribe.
So that first day, you have a lot of on and off rain, which is to culminate with that night, which we'll get to. We already kind of talked about clothing. Did you feel like you brought adequate clothing for the rain?
Nope. I had to borrow Sandra's rain jacket, but
Okay.
yeah.
So you arrive at your camps, your new campsite with the brand new Pink tribe. What do you do?
Um, Well, we started looking for firewood, and then shelter stuff. We start building shelter. I believe me and Carl started the shelter structure, like basically deciding how we wanted to put the tarp and how we wanted to attach it to like the trees. So we did that. I also did, once the fire got started, I think Shauna got fire started and Jeff. Once that happened, I started making the rice to help. And we just chilled and got to know each other. And from there, it was just normal, I guess.
Well, were there any players that you were saying like, hey, thinking like I might want to work with this person, or players you were trying to have a more one-on-one conversation with, which is hard very early on where everyone's kind of in a group altogether?
I would say Jordan, James. I would say James. But Sandra and Jeff came around later during the, like, I think that day or the next day.
Mm-hmm.
So I think James is my first one, and then Jordan. We had like the three of us try to work together, and then eventually we'll try to bring in Jeff and Sandra. But I think those were the people that I felt closer to and actually trusted. Um, so other than that, I kind of had little small talks with everybody else, but
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really know where they were at or what they thought, because I thought that some of them didn't want to work with me, or some of them were like too intimidated by me or scared. But yeah.
Did you get that impression just because they weren't coming up to you and initiating conversations?
No, everybody was coming up to me.
Mm-hmm.
I guess they I feel like each person wanted to come up and talk to me to see what I was doing, where was at, based off, I think, my personality and how outgoing and funny I am. But other than that, I think I was more scared to go up, not scared, but nervous to go up to them
Mm-hmm.
to make alliances or deals or do any game talk. So I just let them come to me.
And I think that's because it's early in the game, day one. There's kind of a fine line of like, I want to play, but if I play too hard, people will notice that, and that might be used against me, right?
Right. Yeah.
Talk to me about James. How did you get to be in an alliance with him?
Well, he, what's it? So he approached me and wanted to work with me. And he also was the one that kept me warm at night, I should say. So we were always like next to each other, when we went to go to sleep or anything like that. So we kind of like had our conversations. Um, and he said that I was like one of the strongest social people there. So like I can have my way of like listening to other people say, and then also using that to our advantage. And he's more like the physical side of it. Um, other than that, he did also say we needed to kind of like separate a little bit, so that it wasn't so obvious, but it was obvious. I mean, from day one or day two, it was going to be a well-known issue, I would say. So I think also that ultimately put a target on my back at the beginning. But yeah.
Talk to me a little bit more about Jordan.
Jordan. Jordan was the one that I thought I was going to be like really, really close with. And I mean, she's funny. She's a great girl. She's very smart. But Jordan's really bad at lying, because I knew when I was going home, I looked at her just to see the way her reaction was, and she was smiling and she couldn't stop smiling. I was like, okay, she's never done that any other time. So it's like, But I mean, overall, Jordan played a good game. I would say her personality is kind of like mine, but more reserved and more calm.
So during that first day, you have a reward challenge. It's the Quest for Fire challenge. How was this challenge for you?
Honestly, I would say doing the puzzle, it wasn't that bad. I memorized well, not memorize it. In my head, I was like going through how the puzzle would slide, like based off like the little squares.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when we started the puzzle, Trinica, and I believe it was Danny, um, finished it in like literally like 5 seconds or like less. I'm like, me and Sandra are like, okay, that was quick. So then we panicked. I panicked, and I was like, well, now I'm like freaking out because like they're already done. Now they have to go, and we're probably gonna be like lose. I mean, which we did, but overall, it wasn't. I don't think we did that bad. I think it's an easy first start. Um, I mean, the other challenges were a little bit harder, but
So your tribe loses this reward challenge. And before we get to the outcome, which is the first outpost which you'll go to, I want to kind of talk about a couple of the twists that are in the game that have been disclosed to you. The first is you learn the game will have redemption. Did that factor into your gameplay at all?
um, I think I was just thinking if I got voted out, I'm automatically going to redemption, and there's no
Mm-hmm.
ifs, ands, or buts. I'm going straight to redemption because once I get back in, then that's when the villain side of me would come out. Yes, I said it. Everybody thought would be a hero, but I mean, I'm most likely a villain. But yeah, redemption was gonna be that turning point where I'm ready to go, no matter if like anything happens. But when I get back in the game, it's gonna um be even more interesting to watch or see. So
You also learn that fire tokens are in play. What
yes.
was your so what'd you think about that?
The fire tokens, honestly, I didn't really care much about because we had our individual fire tokens at the beginning of the game,
Mm-hmm.
but once we went to the outpost, we always used them to as like a community thing. So like what I was thinking, I was like, you know what? If there's some way to get like sneak fire tokens from like at least get them from the other people or like and use those just to like help me. But because like we made mistakes of like I think a couple people got like advantages and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
and they read them out loud in front of the tribe. So I mean, that kind of like Carl got his first idol like that, and at first I was kind of irritated by that, and I was in my head thinking of different things, what we could do to like eventually get that out of his hands or stuff like that. But overall, I think the fire tokens probably made a lot of just like ruffles in the tribe, I should say,
Mm-hmm.
based off like what we brought back or what we did, because um, no one knows what's really going on over there when
Mm-hmm.
you're in outpost, but when you come back, you see what you say. Oh, you bring food, but really, did you just get the food? So you're overthinking.
The last twist, and this is one we've seen on CBS the past couple of years, Real Foot had it last season, Shot in the Dark. What are
Yeah.
your thoughts on Shot in the Dark?
Um, it's like gambling. I mean, the first night I was thinking of using my shot in the dark, or when Deb went home, I was going to use my shot in the dark because at first I didn't trust my alliance that I was working with.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I kind of sense that they're kind of being like weird and like being very quiet around me and not talking as much as they usually were. But I was like, I didn't use it. But shot in the dark, I think, is something that should be always a thing in Survivor. But um, yeah,
So you lose that first reward challenge, but Melissa and Trinica from the Kina tribe go to the outpost, and you and Carl are selected to also go in the outpost with them. Talk to me about this experience. What happens?
um, so I knew when they picked us, I knew obviously that Melissa and Trinica were wanting to work with. I mean, hoping at least me because um, I rode. Well, when I first got to the games, Trinica and me were at the same hotel, so like I seen her waiting, and I was like, is she going to run Reelfoot? So I kind of like was like, well, maybe she picked me because she met me first, and like she probably wanted like at least like get to know me. Melissa, on the other hand, she's like, I don't know, not flirting, but like she was giving me compliments at the beginning. She's like, you're cute, I want to work. So I knew that she wanted to work with me, and based off that, we kind of like made a little pact, which really ended up not working in my favor. Um, but the choosing Carl was an interesting choice too, because I wasn't expecting just me and Carl going. We're completely opposite people, um, and but overall, I think they picked a really good duo.
So what happened at the outpost?
So there was the tarp, I think was 9 or 10 tokens. And then there was rice, ketchup, and twine. The ketchup and twine were 3 tokens. The rice was 6 tokens, I think. And then the tarp was like 9 or 10. So we didn't have enough to get the rice or the tarp, but we wanted to get the tarp. The girls were heavily set on they're getting a tarp. Carl asked for some tokens to borrow so that we could bring something back. And I was like, well, we could just bring ketchup and twine. We can pay our 6 tokens to get 2 things, come back. And then they're like, well, we'll give you 1 token so that you can bring rice back. And then if we let them get the tarp. And on top of that, to work with them if we did make it, at the merge.
So you head back to camp with Carl. You have some rice. What's your reception when you get back?
I knew that they were kind of like wondering how everything went. Because I can sense that they were not believing what we were doing. But we came up with like this thing saying that, it was this much, and they got it based off how much they won, and this is how much the rice was. And then there are people like, well, is that all the fire tokens and stuff like that? We're like, yeah. So hopefully they believed us. I don't know if they all believed us, but it was, yeah.
So did the rice cost all your fire tokens? Do you have any fire tokens left over?
No, the rice did cost all our fire tokens. It was 6, I think, for rice.
Okay. All of you started with 1 fire token at the beginning of the game?
What was that?
Did all of you start with a fire token at the start of the game?
1, and we all put ours together to get whatever was at the outpost.
So, rounding out that night of the first day, how are you feeling about the game so far?
I was feeling still like calm. I mean, I wasn't really thinking too much about it because I was like more worried about like being warm and not being wet. And overall, it was like it's the first 2 days. No one's going home until like we actually. I was like, the game didn't hit me until we grabbed our torch and got fired. That's what I kept thinking in my head. I was like, you know what? Until we get the torch, until we go to tribal council, then the game has not started. I mean, this is just a little practice, and we're just playing around, just getting to know each other. But until we get to tribal council and our torch is lit, then the game is on.
Well, speaking of not wanting to be wet, you have a thunderstorm roll through that night, and your camp gets the brunt of it. Talk me through this experience for you.
So I remember the fire, being made, and I was keeping the fire going and stuff like that. And I decided to go sleep outside by the fire to keep a little bit warmer. And that's when it started, raining a little bit, just a little bit, not much. So I wasn't worried. We had like enough leaves covering like the fire. So like if it was drizzling, we were not going to feel it. But then all of a sudden it starts lightning and thundering, and I'm like, okay, this is kind of interesting. We go in the shelter, it starts downpouring, and once it's downpouring, we're over here trying to huddle together, sitting up, and then we look up, and then there's a lightning that struck the tree 10 feet in front of us, and that's when everybody panicked. And at first, I didn't really notice what happened, but then I was like, did lightning just strike the tree? Like, and I'm wearing this, and I was like, I'm gonna go. I was like, I'm going. I was like, everybody's like, no, Blake, you're not going by yourself. I'm like, well, I'm not staying out here. I'm not gonna die out here if there's a tornado or something like that. And they're like, Blake, stay. So I had to like take this off my neck, and I was like, over here. I think I was the first one to go towards like production, and they're like, Blake, slow down. I was like, I'm like, I'm trying to get out of here. It went from a 0 to 100 real quick, and we were wondering if the camp was going to be still like together, if anything was going to be ruined, but nothing.
So your entire tribe evacuates to essentially the production building, and where you get to sleep on the nice, solid wooden porch. Were you able to get any sleep or rest that night?
Not much. No, it was cold. I think the floorboard, like the floor or the wood, was more of a problem than the cold.
Yeah, it sounded unpleasant to try to sleep on.
Yeah.
Wow. So that's night one, leading to day two. Day two, you have several reward challenges. Your first reward challenge is you have a vertical table maze. How was this for you?
Honestly, I think it wasn't that bad. I'm going to say it wasn't that bad. The ball, getting the ball or finding the ball, I believe, was more of the problem.
Mm-hmm.
For some of, I mean, I'm the one that found the first ball, so I mean, it wasn't that much of a deal for me. But doing like the maze was kind of like hard.
Mm-hmm.
Mine kept getting stuck on one of the holes. Like I was trying to pull it and it kept getting stuck. So like I couldn't I wanted to yank it, but didn't want to risk it falling. But also I wasn't wearing good clothing there. It was raining as well on that one. So it was more cold and wet. But I think it was an easy challenge, or it would have been easier if we were like communicated more and worked together. But other than that, it was a decent.
How do you feel like your original Nankana tribe worked together as a tribe? Did you feel like you had good communication camaraderie, or is it something that gradually you got as the days went on?
I honestly don't think any of them really wanted to communicate as because I know James and me were kind of like trying to explain, like say like go to this number or like this number box, and nothing. No one was like really listening unless they were listening, but when they got there, they weren't forgot which number box. So it was like 3-3, we would say, or 2-2, or 3-1, or so.
So your tribe loses the second reward challenge. There is another outpost visit. James and Sandra from your tribe go with Charlie and Tony from the other tribe. What happens when they come back?
Honestly, it's I can't remember actually. To be honest, I honestly don't remember, but
okay.
I'm assuming. So I can't remember that one. There's a lot of things I remember and I do not remember, but I mean, I think it's also.
Well, this is also a period where you're like low sleep, low food, high stress. It's not conducive for memory.
Yeah,
which is why we're doing this.
Sure.
Your next reward challenge today. This is the idle hands challenge. We have to knock things off the other tribe's pedestal. How was this for you?
We didn't really get much time to get points. But I went against Tony. I know that. And it was kind of funny because he said, you want to have a twerk off or something like that, because I'm known for my twerking. But he's like, you wanna have a twerk off, and it kind of threw me off. I was like not expecting it, and that's how he got the point eventually. um, I think if we wouldn't have broken the the what I call it, the balance stick, whatever, we could have kept going and got more points. Or if we had came up with a strategy, because I noticed that they were throwing it up in the air and hitting it out of people's hands. But
How did it break?
I believe someone threw it on the ground, like, and then the next time I think someone threw it on the ground, or someone like hit it out their hand, it snapped in half. So
And that was that.
Yep, that was that, and we didn't get any more points. We were disqualified. So
because Reelfoot famously they have the Bobby rule saying you break it, you own it. That's it.
Yep.
So it's you're midway through day 2. You've now lost 3 reward challenges in a row. What's the vibe of the tribe like now?
Well, we're over here trying to decide who's going to go home and all that stuff, but I think we were all pretty set on what was going to happen and who was going to go home.
So who are you strategizing with at this point?
So we had my alliance of 5, which was James, me, Sandra, Jeff, and Jordan. We were called the Power Rangers.
What ranger were you?
The Pink Ranger. But other than that, I'm pretty sure that we were set on Deb. Obviously, Deb was the first one.
Okay.
Based off the complaining about there's a lot of things that different things like she was wondering if this is a tick or if there was like that, or like honestly me, I thought Deb would have been safer for another round. I was trying to go big and go for I believe it was Carl or Kiri, but I was told no, because that's too big of a move to go right away, and there was we shouldn't do that. We should use them for further, gameplay. But I was like, okay, well, I mean, I don't talk much to Deb, and if it's the easy vote, it's the easy vote based off of any challenges where there could be physical, then we felt like also Deb wouldn't be really that good. But obviously she surprised us, or surprised me, I should say, at Redemption. So I was also wrong judgment. I had the wrong judgment based off what other people were saying.
So why Kiri or Carl? Why target them, or want to target them that early?
Well, with Carl got to the merge, I was more worried that he, based off the idol that he got, eventually when he got the idol, I was like, we need to get rid of Carl. And if he made it to the merge, then, we're going to be screwed. Kiri, on the other hand, I didn't know how to read her. Like, me and her hardly talked, but like, I was her cabana boy. She's like, if you have a speedo, you're going to be my cabana boy, but I still didn't know, because I've heard that she's a really good player based off other people that have seen her play a game, or like her, and she's said something about like her husband or something like that. How she's like voted her husband out, or her husband's voted her out, or something like that, and won a game. So, those were my 2 biggest threats, I would say. But other than that, I wouldn't choose anyone else.
Yeah, so going back to the idol, right? So a little bit the second outpost, James and Sandra go. They come back. They read the idol clues to the entire tribe. Tony, within seconds, finds that idol. Talk to me about that moment.
That's the moment when I was like, we need to try to get him to use his idol. And Kiri and Carl were, I think, closer than anyone else. So we split the vote. I had a plan to split the votes between them, or, vote one of them so that Carl would use his idol and hopefully on himself, or Kiri so that one of them would go home. But I was again told, no, we shouldn't do that. And my strategic plan was shot down, and we went the easy way and voted that with Yeah, Deb.
And following the Deb vote, like, did you have a second target? They're like, all right, if we go Debbie now, who do we go second? Was that something you're already thinking about?
Nope, same plan.
Okay. Well, same plan as like turn back to Carl and Kiri and look
Well,
at them.
actually, no. It was between. I would change my mind based off what I was seeing, or the names that people were throwing out, which Shauna was a name, and honestly, it was pretty much Carl because of the idol. But then if we had another person against Carl, then he'd probably use the idol. We'll think that he would use the idol on one of them, but it wouldn't. But honestly, I had the three main ones, which was Carl, Kiri, and Shauna.
Yeah, so you have your lines of 5, right? And so correct me if I'm wrong, it's Jeff, it's Sandra, it's you, it's James, and Jordan. You're kind of saying there's 3 people who are kind of looking to target potentially. You've already talked about Kiri and Carl. Why Shauna?
Sandra, I believe, if I'm correct, I can't remember exactly what she was talking about, but I think she said that Shauna was a strong female and she would dominate like challenges and stuff like that. So I would say, more a physical threat, and probably wanted to get her out so that it would be easier to advance or something like that. But other than that, I thought Shauna was actually really good, and I think she was one of the reasons why I went home, probably because I did write her name down. But I mean, I thought I had a good reading on her, but really I didn't. I don't know.
Yeah, so I'm curious. So likely you're hearing some whispers of discussion about players' past games they played, right? Sandra had won a game, Shauna had won a game. Did any of that influence your thinking or decision making? You kind of talk a little about hearing Kiri's past experiences.
Yeah, I mean, it ultimately did put some like things in my head, like saying like, hey, if they've done this or if they did that, or I use that to my advantage. But also didn't really think much of it because I was like, it was a different game. It's just a different game that we're playing, and who knows, it could change. But ultimately, that bit me in the butt, I guess.
A compliment from Debbie, loving how you frame your stuff. Those are your awards behind you, right? Okay, we'll definitely talk about those towards the end of this podcast, because I was looking at them earlier. I was like, I think I know what those are. We've talked about a lot of players in your tribe, but there's one person we haven't talked about, Matty P. Where was he in your radar at this point in the game?
Honestly, I didn't really talk much with Maddie, which is surprisingly. I knew that I kind of was thinking in my head, I was like, maybe he's got the girls like Shauna and Deb and Kiri, and maybe Carl's also wanting to work with them. So I was like, kind of like, maybe he's like me. He's like, we're having these people come to us and talk to us, but then he wasn't really a threat to me until maybe when James was voted. But I didn't really think much about Maddie. I think he was just like he was like just flying under the radar, or like he was just going with the flow and just not making himself like a target or too much at camp, or like because he was good at challenges. He was always good at running the camp. He wasn't causing problems, I should say.
So. I had a question and then I lost the question. Oh well. Here we go. You have your lines of 5. Are you seeing other lines form, or are you seeing? Are you able? Because you talk about you're like really observing what everyone else around you is doing.
So I kind of was. Yeah, a lot of alliances, a lot of people, talking and stuff like that. Obviously, I knew Sandra and Jeff were working together with Jordan. Outside of our alliance with James and me. I noticed that Shauna, Kiri, and Carl were working together. Along with probably Maddie and Deb, but I noticed that Sandra and Jeff were talking more to everybody else than me or James, because I've noticed like every time they would go off talking, I'd walk up, or like I purposely would walk up to the groups to see what they were talking about, because I know either they're talking about me or they're talking about someone else that was gonna be going home, and that is until I started thinking I'm gonna be the next one, and did the whole rice and we'll talk. Yeah.
Okay, we'll get to that. So first, to talk about your first tribal immunity challenge. This is the kayaking challenge that ends with the puzzle. Talk to me about this challenge. This does not go the best for your tribe.
So that one was, I was kind of scared at first to do that one, because I am scared of big bodies of water, and I, not knowing what's underneath. But yeah, when James started out, he tipped a kayak, and they wanted to get the water out and stuff like that. So I can set us back a little bit, and then we were all deciding about the puzzles. And I think once Jeff decided, like, just to go for it with the kayak and not empty the water, he went for the furthest one, and then that made some problems because James wanted to get the furthest one, but Jeff did it instead. But ultimately, I think it set us back based off the flipping over. And then I forgot who else was it. I think it might have been Deb that was having a little trouble with the kayak, But ultimately, that part of the portion was more of a struggle. The puzzle, we had no chance, because we took a while to get the pieces to get back on the ground, and at least we got them all untied, but we didn't have a chance to actually win that one.
So you lose this challenge. You're going to the first tribal council the next morning, right? So you have all night and some of the next morning to discuss and deliberate. You've already kind of talked about, Debbie's name being out there. Talk me through the strategy of this round leading up to the tribal council.
Honestly, I think it was just easy name to write down was Deb, and I don't think anyone really was going to change their vote. Because I did also sorry Deb if you're watching, but I did say I volunteer, so I basically volunteered my name so that she would write my name down.
How come?
I don't, honestly, because I felt like if she wanted to work with me, and since I was writing her name down, and wasn't working with her that night, I thought it'd be kind of like an easier, try to like make it so it's not, because if her name's going down, my name goes down, thinking, maybe it'd make it an easier vote out or blind side, I guess. But I don't know, because if I would have said anyone else's name, I feel like they would freak out. Like, why did you say my name, or why did you, So I just I volunteered to write my name and not have people like freaking out that their name was being thrown around and make it worse than it should be.
Now, you mentioned earlier again, Carl and Kira have been your ideal names to push. At this point, were you pushing those names at all, or just like, this is what it is?
It was Carl at first because of the idol thing, but ultimately I was like, I agree. We can get rid of Deb first, and then Carl can be next, or Carl can be at least before the merge. I was like, we need to get Carl or Kiri out before the merge. That's all I'd say.
Did you have any sense that there are players who may be working against you and James at this point?
Already, yeah, 100%. Sandra, Jeff, and Jordan, and
working against you.
Like, yeah, like going against us, like not wanting to work with us, but kind of work with us. You talking about?
So even at this first tribal council, you kind of know there's players who are setting themselves up against you in your own alliance. Okay.
Yeah.
And so because you mentioned earlier, like you were feeling paranoid that the vote was going to be you. What led you to feel that way?
Because when I volunteered my name to, uh, you know, some of my alliance members and Deb, I was thinking, maybe they might write my name down and, instead of Deb and keep Deb over me. Because that could be a dumb move. You say, "Oh, you volunteer your own name down. You volunteer to write your own name down, and you think you're just going to be at the one vote, but really you get all of them." And so it kind of gave me a little paranoia, but I knew I wasn't going to go home that night. So,
how was that night? How was that second night for you?
it was I mean, nothing much changed at camp. I think it was just like a vote that we all decided on, and we were fine. I was just worried about the next vote after that if we lost, and so on.
So the next morning, you had the tribal council. It ends up being a 7-2-1 vote on Deb. 7 votes for Debbie, 1 vote for you, which is from Debbie, which makes sense, and then 2 votes for James. What is your reaction to seeing this vote?
That's kind of where I started questioning if anyone in the alliance was the one that wrote those names down, or if it was Kiri or Carl. So I was like, either Kiri or Carl did it, or it was Jeff and Sandra were the 4 people I was deciding who would write those, but I still never figured that out.
Yeah, so it ends up being Shauna and Matthew who write down James's name. So what was the follow-up back at camp after this vote?
Honestly, I didn't really get any fault. Nothing happened really towards me or anything like that. James was a little bit mad. Not a little bit, I should say. He was mad. And I was just trying to make sure he's all right. And I told him, I was like, I didn't vote for you. So I don't know. So, but he also kind of thought it was, I would say, Kiri, or it was probably, I think he did say Shauna, because then we wanted to vote for Shauna based off James knowing or thinking it was one of them.
So I guess your next community challenge is kind of this race with its multi-stations where certain parts people are either blindfolded or can't talk, etc. How was this challenge for you?
That was the relay. Honestly, I think it was fine for me. I mean, I did the puzzle. I was strictly doing puzzles for our tribe when we had any puzzle to do in the challenge, because I knew I am good at puzzles, and but based off everything else, I don't know how we really. I know is that we kind of decided based off what our weaknesses and strengths were, but for the second half of it, I think it was Carl and James. They did the mute part, I think, and then I believe Kiri was the one that couldn't move. Basically, it had to be carried. So the caller, I should say. And I honestly don't think we had any problems based off what positions we picked, because we had Deb already gone. And I mean, to be honest, I don't think anything would have changed no matter who we had.
How was the feeling of winning your first challenge in the game?
It was pretty good. Not having to vote anyone out, and because that night I thought if we would have lost, I feel like I either would have went home, or Sandra would have went home, based off the puzzle part or whatnot. But because the first challenge or whatever with the sliding piece puzzle, we didn't do fast enough. But Also, when they said it was a curse, that the last two teams that did this puzzle ended up, losing and going to tribal council. I was like, we need to use that as a fire under our butt, and we beat the curse and finished the puzzle.
So following this tribal council, Joe is voted out from another tribe who you'll end up meeting at Redemption on the Road. Your next challenge ends up being Steal the Bacon.
That's the medicine ball.
The medicine ball one, yes. How was this?
That one was a very exhausting challenge. I was winded after the second round. I went against Ethan. The first round was a piece of cake. Ran, he kicked the ball, kind of grabbed it, ran back. But I would say me going against Ethan the second time, I was not expecting to get physical, but I'm sure he wasn't expecting me to get physical either. But it was I honestly thought I was gonna pass out right after that because I still was breathing heavy and all that. But it was close. It was a close challenge based off like the points. But I'm glad that we pulled that one off.
So you win your second immunity, and I guess my question is, because you won these 2 immunity challenges, you have some downtime. What are you spending this time doing?
Not really much besides like just doing stuff around camp, and there's some talking about like who we want to like get out or who we want, but I think it was more still like the same people that I was going with what James wanted to, basically who James wanted to vote out, because that whole he got the 2 votes, and I think it was Shauna and Carl are the 2 names for a little bit, and I think it was when I think that's before our next challenge. And
How are you feeling at this point in the game?
Honestly, I was just feeling like how I was feeling like probably like the first or second day. I wasn't really thinking much. I was just listening to what James how he was feeling, and also listening to what my alliance members were saying, but also kind of like not worrying too much, because I knew I was like, I don't think I'm gonna be the one going home. I was like, I haven't caused any problems yet. But
so your next immunity challenge, you learn that both tribes win the tribal council, so you can't win immunity, but it's a gross food challenge, and you may win individual immunity. How was the gross food challenge for you?
Honestly, that gross food challenge, I did eat a worm at camp. I was like, if worm is edible, let me try eating it, just because maybe the gross food challenge was going to be something with like a nasty, like insect or something like that. I was also pretty good at knowing what the challenges were before the challenges were based off the clues. Like I was able to call out the challenges before they actually happened. The food challenge obviously was not that bad until we get to the egg, but other than that.
Yeah, so tell me about your love of 1,000-year egg.
Nope, that's disgusting. It was so I literally like smelt it, and I was like, maybe I could do it, and I just took a little bite of it, and I started gagged and spit it out, and I walked away because I was like, Carl already, like I look over, Carl's already done. I'm like, well, I can't win now.
What kind of incentive would it take for you to eat that? What would you need? Nothing.
If there was maybe if there was like an advantage that says if you win this one, you automatically make it to final 3, then yeah, I would do it.
I need a 12 tribal council fast pass, please.
Right. It was like a Monopoly, pass go and collect whatever, $200. Like if I had like something like that, like I would swallow that egg whole and not have to think about chewing it or anything like that. But I don't think anything really would. That was disgusting.
So Trinica wins for the Okina tribe. Carl wins for your tribe. Um, you get back to camp. What? How does the strategizing go?
Mm, I honestly, we didn't strategize. Well, not that I know of, but like I know I didn't strategize much that night because I was, tired,
Mm-hmm.
and we all decided to talk in the morning
Mm-hmm.
about things. Um, but yeah, I don't think there was much strategizing going on until the morning of. But
So morning day 4. How does that go then?
um, our vote was supposed to be Shauna,
Mm-hmm.
um, but it didn't go that way.
Definitely does not. Ends up being 2 votes for Shauna, 7 votes for James.
Mm, yeah, that's where I knew that I was on the outs.
Did you have any? Do you think there were any hints or things you didn't pick up at the time that now in retrospect you can say, oh, they were working against me and James at that point?
No, I
Okay.
kind of like just like figured that once that happened, and because I knew already first the vote before that they voted Ashana and Maddie voted Jeff. That's what you said.
They voted James, yeah.
So or James, yeah. So then I kind of figured that then if they did that, they're gonna write at least me or James's name down
Mm-hmm.
if we're voting for Shauna. So if we're going to go for Shauna, and I'm sure that one of our alliance members told Shauna
Mm-hmm.
that me and James want to vote her so that they would, work with them to get the numbers. So I mean, honestly, I wasn't mad. Well, yeah, I could be mad, but I was I was shocked. I was blindsided, basically. Um, you could tell by my facial expressions in that one. But
In retrospect, was there anything you think you could have done differently to change it so James doesn't go home and maybe Shauna does go home?
mm, I mean, no, but yeah, I would. There's a lot of things I could have done, but didn't. But honestly, I don't think because they said that it wasn't nothing against me, but I did watch some videos that I didn't see before, of like strategy talk and you know with Jeff and Sandra, how they're talking about when they voted James, and they were scared I was going to come back, and or that they were scared of me and how I would react and all that stuff. But honestly, I said if you would have told me and talked to me about it, maybe I would have wrote his name down too.
Mm-hmm.
But they were scared to tell me because they thought I would go run and tell him. But I was like, really, there's nothing we could do anyways if you guys were already planning on voting him out anyway.
So James is gone. You've been blindsided. How worried are you coming out of this tribal council?
I knew that we're gonna have a tribe swap, and I knew that I was like the tribe swap has. I was like, honestly, I was hoping I was working with Melissa, Tony, or Hannah were the 3 that I was now thinking in the game that I want to work with,
Mm-hmm.
and um,
So you're just jumping ship. You're like, there's a
I
tribe
was
swap. I'm sure there's a tribe swap, and I'm working with anyone else but my original tribe.
mm-hmm. At that point, I was like, you know what? I don't trust anyone. I was like, well, basically they lied to my face, but I still work with them, but
Mm-hmm.
whatnot. But I was just hoping that we can get a try swap and see how that went.
So the survivor gods listen to you. You have a tribe swap, and so you are on the new Nonkana tribe. And so from your original tribe, it's you, Kiri, Sandra, and Shauna. And then from the Okina Green tribe, you now have Tony, German, Hannah, and Charlie. Let's first talk about the people from your own tribe you're with, Kiri, Sandra, and Shauna. How do you feel about swapping with those 3?
Honestly, I did not want to be stuck with them. Um, because I knew Sandra was the ringleader of the others in our alliance, based off what I was told by others. Kiri, I didn't know how. I couldn't read Kiri. I still didn't know where she was in the game or where she was, like, how, because, like, we would talk and, nothing bad or anything. Like, we were, like, vibing, but I don't know. Shauna, on the other hand, obviously I wrote her name down, so she was kind of, a certain way towards me. So I don't blame her. But yeah.
In your ideal world, what other 3 players from your tribe swap with you?
I would say I'd rather have probably Carl or Jordan.
So Carl, Jordan, one other person?
Maddie.
Okay. So you really just were like, I want to change places with Jeff and be on Okina. You just want, okay. Now, from the Okina tribe, you're now with Tony, German, Hannah, and Charlie. Talk me through those 4 people. Because you're meeting most of them for the first time. Actually, all of them for the first time, probably.
So going into the game, originally I wanted to work with Melissa, so sadly I didn't get that chance. But I kind of was looking. I was like, well, I think Tony, Melissa, Hannah are working together on the other alliance. I feel like they're working together, and I feel like they have an alliance. So if I worked with at least one of them, I'd be good. So we get Tony and Hannah, and obviously we get all the tea of what's going on and stuff like that. And basically, I believe Charlie was on the outs, but if Charlie came over and James was still there, James wanted to work with Charlie and us. And I think German and Tony didn't like each other, or there was something going on with German and Tony, and also with, I believe, Hannah. But ultimately, I don't think it really helps to my advantage. I don't think any of them were really being loyal and truthful to me, because
ideally, you'd love to see it be a 4v4, and you get to jump over to the greens and vote on original pink, right? But it didn't seem like it was going to be that way.
No, at that point, I was like, well, I could be strictly pink strong, and we need to get the green out. That's what my mindset was. Going into it, my plan was, like, if we were to vote anyone out, it'd be between the 2 green, like 3, whatever the green were. And I guess they didn't think I was going to be pink strong. They thought I was going to, go against my own, pink. And maybe they were just judging me based off, like, the blind side and, like, whatnot. But no, yeah.
So did you go to, like, Charlie, Hannah, German, Tony, and say, hey, I just got blindsided. I'm looking for a new home. Take me with you.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Because you mentioned Hannah was someone. It was like Hannah and Tony were both people you were looking to work with. So were they receptive to you coming over and talking with them?
They had their saying what they had to say about what was going on in their camp and whatnot. But also, I think they were just taking information in just to use it for their advantage to tell the others. But yeah, I would say it was not. There wasn't much strategizing. I guess there was just more telling me what was going on, because I feel like they knew that I was the one to go to about talking about what was going on, because I would tell everybody what was going on. But yeah.
How endangered did you feel on the swap tribe initially?
I already knew I was swapped. I already
okay, okay, gotcha. So you're like, this is not. I was in trouble, and now I'm still in trouble.
Yep, because once he said drop your buffs, I was like, okay, and then I look and get pink, and I'm like, oh. But I mean, there's something I could have done. I mean, I could have did my, how when you go into the game, they said pick up Survivor contestant who you're most like. I said Michaela Bradshaw. I mean, I could have been like, Amos, you did this wrong, like she did in her season where she gets the one odd color buff and she's by herself. Honestly, I was hoping there was an odd color buff and I was by myself and had to go, but
Well, more like Michaela Bradshaw, you get blindsided by your own tribe late into the swap. Unfortunately, you inherited some other aspect of Michaela. So you have your first challenge as your new tribe. This is a blindfold challenge where you go out, retrieve stuff. How did that go for you?
I mean, to me, I demanded to be the caller. I was not going to be blindfolded simply because I wanted to screw with the people that I knew were the ones that screwed me over. So purposely made Kiri, German, and Charlie wander off and do what their thing, and I kept the people that I wanted to at least work with. I mean, also I was kind of bad at the directional wise, but I mean, I think I was playing my own little game, like of just like
you were having fun. That's what matters.
Yeah, I was having a little bit of fun, and I was also studying the puzzle a little bit. Like I was like, it's like gonna be a cube. It was like kind of like if I'm up here, I can kind of like in my head figure out what's gonna go where, and But ultimately, we were a little slower at getting the puzzle pieces, but we're, I think, neck and neck with the puzzle part.
Well, your tribe pulls out a victory, and so you don't need to worry about tribal council. Looking at the other tribe has Jeff, Maddie P, Jordan, and Carl, and then Trinica, Melissa, and Ethan. Was there any person you wanted to see go home from that tribe, or anyone you expected to see go
home? Jeff.
Why Jeff?
Because if him and Sandra were closer, they were split up. So now that'd be an opportunity for them to take out Jeff for me, because I know I wouldn't be able to take out Jeff because I feel like Jeff would be chosen to stay over me any day. But I was hoping it would be Jeff to go.
Well, your wish is granted. Jeff is voted out in a 3-3 vote, with Melissa playing an idol for herself and him missing a shot in the dark. And so you get to the next challenge, and this is the mutiny. Did you know a mutiny was going to happen? Did you know there was that advantage in play?
I was not told nothing about it.
So what was your reaction to seeing kind of the handoff? Because it's like, I'm trying to remember exactly how it goes. Melissa hands it to Hannah, who hands it to Tony. Then Tony mutinies over. It's like there's some machinations going on here. And then Jordan comes to your tribe. What is your reaction to all this going down?
That I was fucked. Because I was like, I was hoping I was already, Tony I get to work with Tony, and also now he goes back to his original camp, and now I'm like, great. So I'm stuck with them still, but now Jordan's back. I like Jordan. She's, was my favorite, but now Sandra and Jordan are together, and now they're the ones that voted James out. Now they're going to try to get me out probably, or, because I already know that they all were against me and James from the beginning, when they voted him. So then I knew I was going to be the next one. And yeah, I don't think there's anything I could have really done. I did the strategy talks and stuff like that, but really no one listened to me.
So we'll talk about the challenge briefly. You do that crate endurance challenge, and it goes for a long time. Who are you partnered with?
I'm Charlie.
And how long did you two last?
I believe an hour or something. I don't know how long, but it was long enough that
long enough you're like, no more, please.
We only had one weight in our crate. Everybody else had weights, but yeah.
So you lose the challenge. Talk to me, what were your pitches you were making to different players that you were going to mention they weren't receptive to them?
Well, so German eventually gets a burn a vote advantage when he there's a point before that where he gets that scroll. Him and Shauna go to the outpost, and they bring back the advantage to the burnabout advantage. So obviously German gets that one. So my plan was to vote between Hannah and German. If Hannah had an idol, then German would go home if he didn't play his burn and vote advantage. But if German played his burn and vote advantage, then one of us would lose a vote, but still that person that we put against him would go home. Basically, it would be putting two people on the green to like split the votes between, when then eventually one of them going home based off what they're, But then I also told, I forgot who I told, but they ended up telling German, so German knew about that plan, and he came up to me, he's like, so you're voting for me? And I was like, well, no. So then he's like, well, what about Charlie? So then Charlie was the next option. Everybody was down to do, vote Charlie. Charlie was down to vote against German and Hannah. But eventually, I was lied and blindsided, and
you seemed to know what's coming. You played your shot in the dark.
But before that, I did put the rice in my bag, and I did tell everybody, I was like, I'm gonna burn this camp down. I will burn the tarp down. I will pee in the rice. I will do all this stuff. I was like, I will destroy this camp if you guys vote me out. And if you guys, I was like, and you guys will be fucked. But then I was like, you know what? And I guess there was an idol that was attached to the flag, and I usually normally grabbed it, whatever. But I made sure I grabbed the rice before I went into travel. I put it in my bag. I told Jordan, I was like, I got the rice, blah, blah, blah. And I guess Jordan told Shauna and everybody else that I had the rice. So, I mean, I played the shot in the dark, yes, because I knew it was going to.
So let me unpack this a little bit. So there's an idol attached to your flag. Do you know who got that?
German.
Okay, and did everyone see that happen?
No, I don't think anyone's seen it. Well, I was told to grab the flag, which, normally I grab the flag when we go anywhere, and I was just like, I'm too stressed out. I'm over it. Like, I'm not going to grab it. And I guess German looks like he walked past a couple of us, and no one notices, but then German sees it and kind of grabs it, and I mean, German was known for getting the idols or taking idols, and so.
So let's say you get the idol and you play it for yourself. Who do you vote out? Let's say it's all the votes are on you and you get the idol out of person that round. Who do you idol out?
Sandra.
Okay. I'm curious because, like you mentioned, your pitch was we should split the votes between German and Hannah. So that kind of suggests that you're looking to try to work with your original Pink tribe. Was there any temptation to go to the Charlie, Hannah, and German and say, hey, I will go to the rocks for you. I will tie it up right now and give you the leverage you need?
Well, ultimately, at that point, I really wouldn't know who to vote for. To be honest, in my interview, they said if you had to choose between, who to vote for, what would you? I said draw rocks, and honestly, I would draw rocks, but because then, but if I had to, choose, I'd be Sandra because she'd be a good person for them to, help me vote out, because obviously she did pull a big move and voting James out, and I didn't think she deserved to be like that far in the game. But I mean, I don't think anything I could have done would have changed the way I was voted out.
Talk to me about the strategy of threatening the burden of the camp and peeing the rice.
So I mean, I have thought that was going to be some kind of thing. I think it would work, but they're more now worried that if I would have done that, because I'm sure they were scared. But once I got voted out, I'm sure once if they came to redemption, they would be even more scared. But honestly, I think they were cursed from when I voted me out and James, because I think right after, one by one, it was like Jordan, Shauna, and so.
I mean, the next immunity challenge was Hot Pursuit. How would you have done in that immunity challenge?
Honestly, I didn't really know what the challenge was. I was at Redemption, so
So this is the challenge where you have to run around in circles chasing their tribe while carrying a weight. Do you think it would have been different had you still been on that tribe?
we probably would have won.
Okay. So it was their loss by voting you out.
Yep.
So you're voted out in a 7-0 vote. You play your shot in the dark. It doesn't hit. You give the rights back, I think, right? Shauna asks, like, hey, do you have rights? You're like, yeah, here you go, right?
But yeah, I said, yeah, I was gonna do that because I originally was gonna plan on like, opening it up and like dumping it as like, for like, I was gonna pull it out when Amos was like, well, if anyone has an hidden immediate idol or an advantage and want like to play it right now, now's the time to do it. And I thought about just taking the rice out and then, well, I already know I'm getting
just do a Jatia. Just pour it in the fire in front of everyone.
I was gonna be like, well, I already know I'm gonna go home, so this is what I think about that. And then, but I didn't because I was like, I tied my bag a certain way where I like so that no one could see it, and my bag had holes in it, so like it was gonna be a while. But I did take two flashlights with me, so they had to walk in the dark back to camp. So,
So, because we talked about earlier about like playing like a hero, playing a villain. You're like, had I gone vote out and come back in the game, I would have been a villain. But it sounds like your villain arc was starting right around there, and you're like, you didn't fully commit.
I was gonna fully commit when I got back and from Redemption if I were made it back in the battle back because I was planning on exposing all of them, like meaning everybody that was on the cast, probably throwing like based off what I've heard before that, based off Green, but then combining that with people like on Vanet, like Redemption, putting that together and just blowing the whole game up. And because eventually, if I know all the information, I come back in and I'm like that chaotic. I'm assuming at least people that would want to work with me.
I still feel sad because like that would have been an amazing gift to create. I think right now my favorite gift this season is German tackling Melanie to get to the advantage. But you just pouring rice into the fire would have probably taken first place. I'm not gonna lie.
Probably, yeah.
Next time for heroes versus villains, we know what to watch out for.
Yep.
So you are voted out. You said earlier there's no way to say no to Redemption, so off to Redemption you go. Talk about your arrival at Redemption.
Honestly, I think I don't know. They were in the middle of a game or a challenge that they were doing, like a little fire token reward. So I walk up, and I think they were all, I would say, all pretty shocked and actually kind of glad. It was like a mixed emotions. I feel like they were probably happy and kind of like because once they got there, I just basically laid everything out and exposed everybody that was like on the tribe and used that. So I think with me being there, kind of helped fuel some fire underneath like our butts for like battle back and stuff like that. But not knowing who was going to come next was also another problem.
So when you arrive at Redemption, there's 4 players there: Debbie, Joe, Melanie, and Jeff. Were you surprised by who wasn't there?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. James, not seeing James there, kind of hurt a little bit. And it kind of upset me a little. But there's nothing I could do. I know he was previously he was going through a lot of stuff that he said that he was dealing with, and I didn't blame him for like not going. But I was hoping to see him there, but yeah, like I said, there's nothing I could do.
How was the vibe at Redemption?
Honestly, Redemption was probably the best. I mean, if I were voted out the first time, like that, I would be like, you know what, Redemption's not bad at all. I mean, we had like a nice like little house. They had like a little bench. You had like the logs that like we laid on. You had rocks that we put by the fire to put underneath the shelter so we're heated from below.
Oh wow! Okay, that's fancy.
Yeah, we had sleeping bags. We had a blow up chair. We won. We got like a camping chair. We got to listen to music. We had like a light. Like food. Like, yeah, it was nice.
How was that night?
The night was not that bad. I mean, I actually slept pretty, like, I would say early and didn't like stay up. We had like fire going. We, you know, just said there's not really much we did. We just laid down, talked a little bit. I know there was some tension
Mm-hmm.
before that with Joe and Mel and Jeff, but because they wanted to listen to what happened, wanted to hear me talk about things, but then Joe wanted things done around the camp and this and that, and Mel and Jeff went to go walk off to go talk, and then that kind of brought up some like suspicion that they're like trying to like work against us or do
Mm-hmm.
something, but ultimately it ended up being like a little like not an argument. Well, yeah, not argument. And then it all just kind of like ended. Like, I think it was just they were tired, or they
Mm-hmm.
were just, you know, over the game. I don't know, but it was. I felt like I was like, what did I do? I'm like over here trying to like, explain things and stuff like that, but it kind of made me a little awkward because I was like sitting there like, what do I do? What do I do? Who do I side with? What do I, because I didn't know how their
Mm-hmm.
relationships were.
You've walked in someone's house, everyone else starts fighting. You're just like, I just got here. Like, don't look at me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, basically.
What are some of the challenges you get to compete in at Redemption?
Well, there was the one where we debate on when I do like a price range of like how much do you think this chair was, how much do you think this bean bag, like the air bag
Mm-hmm.
was, or how much do you think this sleeping bag was. That was one of them, and then there's the one where like the code decipher, where you had to like scramble like the letters and figure out
Mm-hmm.
what it said. And I believe that's the only two that. Well, then you got to clean the camp to get 2 more tokens, but ultimately that was the challenges I got to do.
When are you anticipating merge, or I guess when do you anticipate the battle act is going to be, right? Because when you're voted out, there are, I think, 13. Yeah, so once you're voted out, there's 13 players left. When do you anticipate merge is going to be, and when do you anticipate that battle back challenge is going to be?
I was waiting for like at least like an even. I think it was like I was counting when they had like the numbers. So like if
Mm-hmm.
one of I think it was 12.
Mm-hmm.
So like one more person had to get out or two, I think. But eventually, I was thinking it was close because I was told at Redemption that there would be like at least 2 or 3 coming back or coming to Redemption.
So on that 5th day, the first person to join your camp is Shauna. So you get to be reunited with her. How's that?
Um, I was kind of shocked that was Shauna, but
Mm-hmm.
um, I think she was more worried about seeing me than I was worried about seeing her,
Mm-hmm.
because I remember she said that when she was coming to Redemption, she's like, "Wait, is Blake gonna be there?" And she's like, "I don't want to see Blake," because like she was like worried if I was gonna be mad at her or not,
Mm-hmm.
but I wasn't. Um, but I over time I was like, maybe just I can use this chance to like work with Shauna and talk to her to
Mm-hmm.
see, because I mean I voted for her, she voted for me, you know, maybe that we can like squash things and like work.
Mm-hmm. Um, the next player then who's voted out is Jordan, but you don't know that because Jordan chooses not to come to Redemption. Um, and then finally, Matthew joins you at Redemption. How was that?
I was shocked about that one. Um, with the Jordan one, I was kind of like thinking, I was like, I was thinking it's probably going to be my line slowly getting voted out one
Mm-hmm.
by one, or like, the pinks come slowly get like taken out one by one. And so after Shauna, I was like, well, Shauna, and Jordan, I was like thinking it's going to probably be Jordan, or probably going to be, um, Kiri, or like so whoever. Like, I'm trying to think between like 2 people, and
Mm-hmm.
then Maddie. I did not see Maddie coming. To
Mm-hmm.
be honest, I thought it would have been like Charlie or German,
Mm-hmm.
and it wasn't. So I think it's just they were voting people out based off of like our social and our strategy. I think not physically looking at who they're voting out. I think most based off their like strategy, social games. Because Shauna was working with a bunch of them originally, and Maddie was more like a wild card. I felt like I would say, and then there's me. There's more like kind of like everybody coming to me for advice or stuff like that. So I'm looking at how they were voting people out based off. I don't know how to explain it that well, but yeah.
One thing that's interesting is there's a lot of Okina, your original Pink Tribe members, that are both voted out pre-merge and are in redemption with you at pre-merge. Was that factoring into any of your thoughts?
No, I don't.
Well, so let's kind of talk about the redemption. So there's 10 players left in the game, 10 players voted out, 7 at redemption. Let's say you get, before knowing 2 players going with the game, but had you gone back in the game at final 10, what would your strategy have been? What would you have done?
Oh, if I would have got back in the game, that's where I would basically kind of like expose the different cracks that they had, use that to my advantage. And I was just hoping if I made it back in with the merge feast, I was gonna, instead of having a peaceful merge feast, I was gonna just start throwing people under the bus and doing this and that, and just making basically having it's like the Last Supper. I was like, you know what? If I'm gonna expose everybody and I go home next after this merge feast, at least I just had the merge feast and I exposed everybody. And now you guys are gonna have to deal with it.
You mentioned earlier that Melissa and Tony were 2 people you wanted to work with. Would you have gone and worked with them at the merge?
Yes.
Okay.
Melissa and Tony, yes, definitely would have worked with them too. I think ultimately, if I kept also saying that I wanted to work with Melissa previously before any of the swap or anything like that. So I'm thinking that they probably pulled the move that I wanted to pull on Carl, not making Carl get to merge because the idol thing or like. But then me wanting to work with Melissa and Tony and how we were told that Melissa and Tony were probably running the game on that team. They didn't want me to get to them because they're probably worried more about me taking out my own team. But I think if me, Tony, and Melissa worked together, we probably would have been sitting where Sandra, Maddie, and Charlie would have been.
So redemption has 3 challenges that will ultimately have 2 players re-enter the game. The first challenge is an endurance balance challenge. We have to kind of balance an object with your leg. How was this challenge for you?
I threw it.
Really? Why?
Because I knew once they said that the challenge is at the tribal council grounds, I knew it was tribal council, and I knew that I had the votes to get back in. So I threw the first part. Once I found out it was a 3-part challenge.
So did you know from the get-go the second part would be voting?
Yeah. Okay. I already knew those. I seen the torches in front of us. I seen that there's 4 cinder blocks, and we had to make. I was like, we're gonna have to vote someone to get back in, and then they have to make a fire to get back in. So
okay. So you threw the first challenge because you're just like, I don't need to waste time with this.
Yep.
During that down, so until they get the votes to come back in, because it ends up being 1 male, 1 female player. How are you pitching yourself, or who are you talking to get the votes?
So I didn't talk to Maddie at all about it. Jeff, I had to write his name down anyways, and really didn't want to. But Shauna, I told her I wrote your name down. You wrote my name down, so just wrote my name. I'll write your name down one more time if you write my name down to get back in. So I was like, that was my pitch to her. Joe, I think basically by me saying this is how I'm gonna be when I get back in the game, basically I based it off that as well. They're like, well, we want someone to go in that would basically destroy the rest of the people, like the game, like
You're
with
like, hey,
a bunch of information.
I can
And
do that.
so it's like, um, yeah. But Deb, on the other hand, I felt like it would be a harder choice, like that person to get to vote for me because, like,
Mhm.
you know, Shauna and Deb, like between the two girls, like I was debating on which one I wanted to put like
Mhm.
vote for, but I voted for Shauna, and I was worried that they were gonna off not vote for me because Jeff was sitting right there, and I was kind of like awkward and making eye
Mhm.
contact, or they even talking about it. Um, but overall, I knew I was gonna at least get the votes to make it back. I was scared a little bit because the votes were getting tied, and I was like, oh, okay, but
So it ends up being you versus Maddie P in the farming challenge, then Melanie versus Shauna. Between Melanie and Shauna, which one of the two did you want to see win?
honestly, either one of them would have been um good to work with going back in, but I would say Shauna.
Hmm.
But then also, I feel like Mel would have been a better choice because Mel was an original green, and going in with an original green would have been, I feel like, better for me than going in with someone that already blindsided me and also was already on my tribe originally.
Hmm.
But I, yeah, so I think it was a mix of emotions, I guess. I was just more focused on me going in. I didn't care who else went in with me. I was just more focused on getting the fire and done first, but which didn't happen.
I'd say, like, coming in the game, how confident were you in your fire making skills?
Um, I was not much. Um, I mean, I made a fire, I think, once or
Better
helped
than me.
fire once,
I've never made a fire flint and steel before.
but with the, I, I think I was just thinking in my head, and I was filled with like emotion because I was very emotional after being defeated by Maddie. Like
Hmm.
at tribal council, when I got blinded, I had no facial expression. I was calm as can be. I was literally not upset, but then battle back, losing that, I felt like I just let everybody down, let myself down. Like I don't know, I got emotional, I cried, but
Hmm.
um, that was something I really wanted to do is get back in the game. Um, but sadly, I didn't. But I still had a good time.
So Maddie ends up going back in the game along with Shauna, and at this point, your game has ended, though it's been a full 5 days. Talk to me about the post game, and the recovery from that.
Um, I would say taking a shower was amazing. Getting to eat was good. Having a couple drinks, at least chatting with like people that didn't go to Redemption and
Hmm.
people that like Mel and Danny, hanging out with them, getting to know them was fun. Honestly, I think it was a good little bit end of like a terrible vacation. It was like the beginning of the game was like a terrible vacation, not terrible, but also it's like
I mean, generally, our vacations don't really involve starving, sleeping on the ground,
right,
and being in the rain.
right. Hmm.
I
But
always feel like the time I come back to work, I'm like, oh, I'm on vacation finally. I'm in air conditioning with food.
right, that was just having like somewhere to be comfortable. Also, James was there. James was
Mhm.
actually still there. Um, he was gonna leave, and I guess Pete, um, like talked to him into staying, and um, yeah. So I know James was on the porch when we were leaving the battle back when we lost. Like when we were walking to the lodge, and I seen James in the rocking chair, and he stood up, and he goes in the house because he didn't want, Apparently, he said that he didn't want to see me upset,
Mhm.
and because I was crying still, annoying.
Mhm.
But then I go in, I see James and give him a hug, and you know, I felt I was more calm now, and I was, you know, feeling better. But yeah, I would say it was a good experience.
Um, What any highlights from from watching the rest of the game play out and being in the jury house?
Um, I would say some of the challenges we watched were interesting, and then trying them out after, and I was like, "Yep, no." Some of them I was like, I could do that. Some of them I couldn't do. But then we're also thinking about who was going to come home, like who was going to come to the jury, and like we're thinking like, oh, it's going to be this person, oh, it's going to be this person. But once we started slowly seeing who it was, we kind of realized that the game flipped from before. So like it was like some people were taking over the game, and then after that they flipped, and then they were completely being blindsided or taken out.
Mm-hmm. Anything surprised you really watching the game conclude?
Shauna coming back,
Mm-hmm.
but Maddie making it further, Charlie making it further. Honestly, Sandra was the number one person. I was like, wow, she's still in the game. And then Carl being voted out was a shocker, but and Melissa said, I was like, Melissa, but if I would have got back in the game, Melissa, Tony, and someone wouldn't have been voted out. I feel like they would have been.
Would have been interesting because it had you come back in the game, right? And so let's assume like that Sean. So it's you and Shauna. Shauna goes and works with your swap tribe, and then you go and work with Melissa. So you have these kind of face off. And it would be a more 6-6. Let's say the idol still played on Tony correctly. It could have been a very different game had you been there and going to work with Melissa. I feel like Melissa's alliance's downfall was that neither of the two returnees wanted to work with them but sided with other players.
Yeah. Honestly, I think it was just. I think honest that they. I don't know. I just had it in my head. That was what I was going to say, but
I mean, I guess do you look at Maddie P at the final tournaments and like, darn it, that could have been me. Like I was so close.
I would say that would have been me. Yeah. Almost. Maybe if I would have got blindsided at least before the final three, then I'd been fine. But that looking at it, it could have been me.
Is there anything else about your game you want to touch on or go into that we haven't had a chance to?
No, not really. I don't think there's anything much that I have to say. Besides, the only thing is, I wish I would have done the rice fire thing.
Your tribe thanks you, but I wish you had.
I mean, yeah. I should have done it. It's just honestly, I was also tempted to like just take the tarp down and take everything with me to tribal, and be like, well, if I'm getting voted out, this is all coming with me. But yeah, I think I played a good game, and hopefully I can come back and play. And yeah.
So I'd like to ask you kind of a series of kind of rapid fire questions.
Yeah.
Just to see how you answer them. So my first question for you is, who surprised you the most out there?
Deb.
How come?
Based off what everybody else was thinking how she would be, and like at Redemption. I think the most was Deb at Redemption Camp, like seeing her there. I think that surprised me because I didn't think she was going to be there, but when I got there and she was there, I was like, okay, Deb. So Deb was.
Who do you wish you had a chance to work with but didn't in the game?
Melissa.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fitting with the theme. What was your favorite challenge?
I would say the food would be more kind of like my favorite, but also I would say I honestly think the relay one was the one because of the puzzle.
It feels fun when you're the one that like crushes the puzzle at the very end.
Yeah.
What's a favorite camp life moment you had in the game?
I would say threatening them that I was going to burn the fire or the rice, and I would say that.
You could select one player in your season besides yourself to come back for a returnee season of Reelfoot. Who would you select?
Melissa.
Melissa. Okay. Um, you can go back in time and tell yourself one thing prior to the game beginning. What would you tell yourself?
I wish I would have grabbed that flag the day of, or the night of I was gonna go. So eventually I would have found, or at least find an idol, just find an idol or something like that.
Mm-hmm. So you go back and tell yourself, hey, there's an idol right there. Make sure you get it.
Mm-hmm.
You've had mentioned this. You mentioned like you would want to play another game. Would you be playing just looking for Real from the future? Would you play other live games?
I would love to play other live games.
Mm-hmm. And finally, like, do you feel like you've taken anything away or learned anything about yourself from this experience?
Honestly, I would say I have. I don't know, like if I don't know if any of my family or friends are watching this, but I've had a lot of people in my life like doubt me and underestimate me, and they have thought that I can't do certain things, and I think going out here and doing what I did has proven to others that opposite of what you thought, and that it also made me meet people that are actually now my real family and friends that I would say I can always look back at and talk to and enjoy memories and stuff like that. So honestly, I think this was like a best life experience of my life. So yeah.
We have to talk to me about your awards that are hanging behind you.
Yes. So I have not the mirror.
If you break the mirror, I apologize.
So I have the best wardrobe.
So it was worth the suffering to get the award, right?
Yes. And then I'm sadly I didn't get a villain award, which it's all right though.
Because you didn't burn the rice. If you had burned the rice, you would have cemented yourself in Reelfoot history.
And then I got the Pole Dog Award.
The Pole Dog?
Pole Dog Award. So me and James got the Pole Dog Award. It's for two people that think they're running the game but aren't running the game. Yeah. That is a thanks to Michael O'Rear. Michael O'Rear is the one that dedicated that award to me and James. So
let's say you are called back and you're going to co-play Reelfoot a second time. Is there anything you look to do differently a second time, or would you kind of say like, I think I have a good sense of what I should do?
Honestly, I don't think there really is.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the showmance, but I mean, I don't think it really was. I don't think it was the showmance that was the problem. I think it was just.
Who should you have showmance on this season to help yourself get farther?
You said what? Who
should you have had a showmance with this season to help you get farther in the game?
Well, I mean, me and James were a showmance.
There you go. All right.
I mean, honestly, if I would have made it, if I was on Melissa's side, maybe me and Melissa could have like a little like duo showmance, not like that, but like like a gay best friend and girl best friend. Put those two together, would dominate the game. But I don't know. I feel like anyone that sees me is very intimidated by me. I don't know. I think it was me that was the reason why these people were getting voted out, or he got voted out, is because, I mean, obviously they were scared if they voted me out or told me that he got voted out, what I would do. And I mean, maybe I just kind of mess with their minds and say, I'm going to do this or that if you vote this person. So, but next time, if I do get on there, if I do get back on the show, I will execute the process of whatever, like burning the rice or stuff like that.
Well, for everyone who's listening in the future, you have been warned. But Blake, is there anything else you want to bring up that we haven't had a chance to get to?
No. I would say, I think we've talked about everything.
Well, Blake, thank you so much for taking this time this evening to kind of run through your game with me. I really appreciate it and hearing your story and all the things that could have been. Thank you, everyone who's listening, for tuning in. There are more Reelfoot deep dives to come tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Central Time. I will be talking with Danny. And then if you are up early in America or late in Australia, I'll be talking to the winner of the season, Maddie P, at 6:30 a.m. Central Time on Wednesday, which is like 9:30 p.m. Melbourne time, whatever time zone that's in. So get excited for some earlier late night Survivor Reelfoot. But once again, Blake, thank you so much and have a great rest of your evening.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It was a good time.
Yeah, anytime.
Bye.